And you should be able to see the very first slide of my deck. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Good. Hello again. My name is Giulio Astori. I'm a program manager with the cloud security team in Microsoft. And today I will present Microsoft Defender for Cloud and how it allows Azure Government Cloud's customer to properly secure their environments, either in the cloud, Azure, or on premises. We will show you how to leverage the Cloud Security Posture Management feature to ensure proper security posture and allows to be compliant to the various regulatory compliance such as FedRamp, CMMC, NIST, and CIS. We also show you how to secure your workloads within the Azure environment and on-prem, and then as well as the PaaS resources such as storage account, as resource manager, containers, so on and so forth. So let me go ahead and switch on the first slide. Cloud security challenges. So what are the security challenges? The very first challenge is the visibility into the security compliances. Through a survey, we discovered that 52% of organizations out there have prioritized as a top one priority in their go-to to secure the configuration of cloud resources. Why so? Because in the past several years, the number of the attack have continuously increased, not only in terms of a number, but also the attack have become more sophisticated and advanced. Just last year, in the 2021, we had a several advanced attack, and we all know and remember the so-called SolarGate or SolarWind attack. Through the past years, the average cost of a breach was estimated to be almost $4.24 million. That's a lot for a breach. So why so? Because going into the cloud and build those cloud environment also brings more complexity. As a matter of 92% of organizations are actually embracing the strategy in the cloud. The complexity is so, and therefore we need to go ahead and address the security within those new environments. Before we continue, I would like to share one of the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella quote. That is one of the latest quotes about security. His quote is, "With the cybersecurity in the landscape more complex than ever, it's never been clear that every organization will need to deploy and maintain a zero trust security architecture. Our ambition, the Microsoft ambition, is to help every organization to adopt zero trust while reducing the complexity, cost, and risk created by stitching together point solutions." Through this quote, you can actually see how Microsoft, starting from our CEO, is fully committed into provide 100% security within our cloud, Azure, and within any on-prem and other cloud solutions out there. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is an Azure native security services that provides a full-blown security stack for Azure, for on-prem, so hybrid environment, and for across other clouds. How we do so? We will provide a full harden and management of the security posture in Azure. We use something called security score, and we also leverage standardized compliance security assessment and benchmark to evaluate the security of environment and provide you a visible score of such security posture, as well the compliance for each of those standard controls. We also able to detect threats and protect your workloads. Being a VM in Azure, being a VM on on-prem, being a VM in any other cloud such as AWS or even GCP. We also provide full support of protection support for the Azure PaaS resource, and along with that, full vulnerability assessment and management. To close the loop, we're also capable to respond the automate to such threats. If a threat is found, if a recommendation is also generated by the assessment, we can actually respond to it. We can mitigate the incident, we can mitigate the alert. And those mitigation can be either manual, if we like so, or we can fully automate the response. Automations provide thanks to tools such as Logic Apps. And then you can also use other tools such as, we can integrate with other tools such as Sentinel, Teams, Outlook, ITSM products such as Slack, Snow, ServiceNow, or other tools such as Slack, so on and so forth. Now, how is Defender for Cloud different from our competitors? Number one is it is built in Azure, and that does not require any deployments. It's not something that you need to implement by procuring or provision servers, installing application stacks on top of that. No, it's simply a cloud native service. You just enable it, and that you are right at there to use it. It's built right into any resources that it is being provisioned through the process of its own provisioning. And basically has the broadest protection coverage. In Azure, you can protect any workload such as VM and any passive resources. Also, is capable to remediate with simple click. If you have a recommendation, you can actually remediate such recommendation with the fix-it or with the Logic Apps, or obviously you have an option to do manually. The other thing that makes our product different from the other is a multi-cloud and hybrid support. When I say multi-cloud or Azure Gov, we can provide support for VMs. They are provisioned inside of AWS and GCP through something called Azure Arc. Same concept applies to your on-premise resources. If you have regular VMs or regular servers on-prem, you can protect those servers simply by installing the Azure Arc agent. Also, we provide secure score. Microsoft Defender for Cloud provides your bird's eye view of the security posture. Our assessment, it is built on years experience that Microsoft has spent within the security space, and specific with its own product as well as others. Through security score, again, you have a full view of such security posture. You can then prioritize the remediation of the recommendation. There are the results of the findings. You can also track and manage those recommendations, those remediation through time. And finally, we also are different because we provide full event threat protection for our workloads. Those protection will generate a specific signal and threat alerts. Those detections are based on deterministics, artificial intelligence, and anomaly-based detection mechanism. We actually leverage our own Microsoft Threat Intelligence signal and data. The Microsoft Threat Intelligence is developed on more than 20 trillion signal that are collected every day, analyzed, and consumed to provide such intelligence feeds. So how Microsoft Defender for Cloud will work for you in terms of a persona. If you are a CISO, a Chief Information Technology Security Officer, most likely your responsibility will be to create an overall security strategy that will generate and create resiliencies against cyber attacks and track such strategy across time. If you are a CISO, then Defender for Cloud will provide you a top-level view of the cloud security states. That's through your security posture, security score, and compliance management. Also allows you, the CISO, to generate reports or dashboards that visualize such progress of your security posture over time. On the other hand, if you are a security admin, most likely your responsibility will be to reduce the attack surface. And for such, Defender for Cloud allows you to harden the cloud environment with the recommendation, which are the results of the security benchmark and assessment. Allows you to set security policies for your environment, monitor the implementation of those security policies, and track down each individual vulnerability as they are finding. Finally, allows you to manage the cloud asset inventory, and I will show that through my demo later. Finally, if you are a security operations, your job will consist most likely to hunt for threats, investigate any compromise, any breach, and mitigate incident. For such, Defender for Cloud allows you to leverage our workload-specific threat detection and response mechanism to not only identify the attack, but allow also to investigate the actual attack. If it's an alert, an incident, you can easily investigate and you can quickly mitigate the threat by either launching an automated process or manually doing so. So now we're going to do the first demo. Let me see. Okay, for our first demo, I'm going to show you how quickly and easily is to enabling and get Defender for Cloud working for you in secure environment. The very first thing you do is to log on your Azure portal. In this case, is the .us, which means it's the Azure Government Cloud. And here you're looking for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. If it's not already into your favorite resource, all you have to do is go on the services and look for Defender. And then by clicking it, you are now in the Defender for Cloud main page. In order to enable, you just go ahead and, well, this is obviously already enabled. But if you enable, you go in the environment settings. The first thing you do after enabling, you need to make sure that you also enable the protection plans. When you enable Defender for Cloud, by default, you're gonna get the posture management as a free features. So under environment settings, you're gonna explore your Azure environments. The very first thing you see is your tenant root management group. In Azure, we have this concept of management group, and every Azure instances has at least a tenant root as well as one subscription. But under the tenant root, you can have a multiple management groups, which are going to be child of the tenant root as well as parent of other child management group. So your first thing you're going to do is expand the hierarchy over all the management group on your Azure cloud. Go all the way down to when you find your subscription. The key here is subscription. Defender for Cloud is enabled per subscription, so you got to basically repeat such thing for each subscription. Each subscription can have its own independent individual configuration if you like so. You click on the subscription, and the very first thing you see is that your secure posture management is enabled already and it's free. However, we have additional advanced protection plans for the server, for database storage, container, resource manager, DNS. By default, they're turned off. What you need to do is turn those on, and you are now fully protected from end to end. Once you do that, you can also configure a couple other things such as auto provisioning for the log analytics and the Defender for Container component. You can set your email notifications to a specific email. Therefore, you can get notified when you have a specific alerts or recommendation. You can also set the integration with other products. By default, those are already checked, and those integration are with the Defender for Cloud apps as well as for Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, also known as MDE, which is the Microsoft EDR solutions. You can go ahead and configure different workload automations Those are the automated response to through your alerts or for your alerts, and you can actually set over here. You can also set your continuous export, which allows you to export the data, all the findings, into either a log analytics workspace, which is another Azure resource, or if you have a third-party proprietary database that you want to store this information into, you can also use Event Hub, which is kind of like a will tunnel the information into your third-party product. So now let's close this and let's move on to the next sections. The next section is the posture management. So it is how to harden and manage your security posture. The posture management is one of the two main features of the Defender for Cloud. The second feature is the workload protection. So the posture management will provide a holistic management of your security posture in the cloud. He does so by providing what we call a secure score. The secure score is a way to understand the bottom line on your security posture, and then through the assessment, we will provide you a set of recommendations, which will provide you the why we recommend it and how to remediate such security vulnerability. You can also monitor your posture over time as you set improvements thresholds. The other thing that will provide you is resource visibility. The resource visibility allows you to view and manage your cloud resource inventory. I will show that in the demo in a little bit. Through that inventory, you can actually see individual resource, and per each individual resource, you can also see recommendation apply as the recommendation apply those individual resources. Finally, we have a compliances. Compliance is another set of assessment, another set of a benchmark that allows you to see how you are compliant against specific standards. We have a very extensive list of standards for Azure Gov, and I will show you where are that. Those standards are typical PCI as well as NIST, but also we have a dedicated standard for DoD. We have one for FedRamp, so on and so forth. I will show what we have in a few slides. The security dashboard. The security dashboard will give you a centralized posture view. Here you can see your entire secure posture across all your Azure in one single pane. As long as your account has visibility into your subscription, you will see all that information under this single pane. The actual score will be calculated as an average, between all the score calculated for each subscriptions. But you have an option to filter that out. So from here you have a focus view, and then you can actually understand which recommendation is to be prioritized. Because those assessments will provide you a lot of findings, recommendation, you can easily prioritize according to the actual score of the recommendation. Here is the secure score. Okay, through the secure score, we assess and implement the best practice for security and compliance. Our secure score nowadays is fully aligned with many major standardized compliance standard. So in our secure score right now, we integrate controls from CIS, from NIST, and from PCI. Through the secure score, you can cover all the critical cloud resources across your network, your access, your compute, your database, pretty much almost everything that is in Azure. We'll basically assess compute, storage, database, and as well your access. We have hundreds out-of-the-box recommendation, as you will see in our demo pretty soon. You can also create a custom recommendation if what we have don't meet your organization requirement. Once you have a recommendation, you can easily fix such a recommendation by using the Fix It button or the logic apps that you have proactively created and developed to remediate such recommendation. You can also develop policies or implement policies and enforce such policies that will allow you to implement such a remediation, and then avoid configuration drift along the time. The secure score will allow you to improve and track the entire secure score and the overall security posture of the time. Compliance assessment management. Now, besides the secure score, which is more of a Microsoft proprietarized way to assess your security, we also have a way to provide the full compliance against all the major standards. We will provide you assessment and benchmarks for PCI, for NIST, for SOC, for ISO, for HIPAA, as well as CIS, CMMC, FedRamp, and DoD. Here there is a full list of the standard that we support. If you don't see any standard in this list, you can always build your own custom standard. As you can see, the first four, the Azure Security Benchmark, also known as ASB, and the PCI, the ISO, and the SOC TSP, those are enabled by default. By the way, the Azure Security Benchmark is a Microsoft proprietarized benchmark. The ASB is built, again, like I say early, on CIS, NIST, and then PCI. Those are automatically enabled out of the box. If you are not interested, you can always disable it. However, besides those four main out-of-the-box standard, you can add the other additional standards, which I have here listed. You can enable the CMMC level 3. You can enable the ISO 27001 for 2013, or you can enable the DoD-IL5 and the DoD-IL4. Those are two important ones, especially if, in the DoD sector. If you are interested to assess your security against the CIS standard, we will provide you both the 101 and 1.3. The latest one, which 1.4, is under development, and it is probably going to be ready by the end of August, early September, as the latest information that I have according to our development team. We also have the NIST SP 800-171R2 and the NIST 800-53R5 and as well R4. We also cover the benchmark for FedRamp Moderate and FedRamp High. So as you can see in Azure Gov, you have all the government standardized policies control that you can actually implement it, and you can actually benchmark your configuration, your security configuration against them. Now, one more thing we have under the posture management is the notion of asset inventory. Through the actual inventory, asset inventory, you can actually see all your resources in one single pane, and through that single pane, you can see for each resource if they have any recommendation, or if any recommendation needs to remediate, or if there ever any issue with any agent installed on, and so on and so forth. Through the asset inventory, you can see which of your subscription with an Azure security feature enabled have outstanding recommendation. You can also check which of your machine, your VMs with a defined tag are missing the log analytics agent. Perhaps you have the need for log analytics agent. From here, you can easily filter it out using the tag feature of the Azure resource. Or you can also use asset inventory here to see how many of your machine tagged with a specific tag have outstanding recommendation. so you can actually remediate. Finally, you can see which of your VMs with a specific resource group, that's just an example, have a known vulnerability using a CB number, perhaps. So through the inventory, you can actually filter out and generate a good report about your workloads security. Now we're gonna go into the demo. So this demo will be on the posture management. So on the MyCloud Defender for Cloud, under cloud security, you have a security posture, regulatory compliance, and then here on the general, you have an inventory and recommendations. So the first thing we're going to look at is your security posture, also known as secure score. On the secure posture, you'll have the score of generated score for your entire Azure environment. And I say early, the score is the average results of individual subscription score. So here my score is not so good, it's 58%. There are tons of things to do on the score, on this environment. So the very first thing I will do is I will check how many unhealthy resources I have. I have about 35 resources out of 71, which is still unhealthy. I have to do something to remediate those unhealthy resources. And I have around 42, I have 42 recommendations. So here, I'm going to look at the recommendations by either click view recommendation or go directly into the recommendation. Either one will work for you. So click view recommendation. Once you click on the view recommendation, you have a list of all known recommendations, all right? And then we have those recommendations be divided by security domains. So the very first step is one that has the maximum score. The enable MFA is the score of 10. Likely in this environment, the first thing we did was enable MFA. When I enabled MFA, we gained 10 points, okay? And because MFA is enabled pretty much at the tenant level, you can inherit such security remediation across all the subscription under a tenant. But there are a bunch of other security domains here. They are still not so good. Like I have remediate vulnerability, which is totally in red, and over here I have 3 resources and it's remediate. If I remediate through resources, I will gain 6 points. Some other are a little bit red or green. Some are not applicable. So my goal over here is actually look those that have the highest score, number 1, and then try to remediate those first. Therefore, by implementing those remediation, I gain more points with my score. Now, it's not about winning here with the score, right? With the points. More points you get, higher will be your percentage score, higher will be your security posture. Means like, you know, if you start reaching levels such as 70 and above, you're going to be very secure. Obviously, we like to be 90 and up, but you know, there are some mitigation to do on your environment. Not everything can be implemented, so we have to kind of like, you know, mitigate. But however, we do recommend to do the possible to improve your score and get as close as much to the 100%. Let me show you very quickly some of this recommendation. Perhaps here, remediate vulnerability. If I expand the domain, I see container registry images should have vulnerability finding and resolve. So here I have some registries, container registries, and there's those container registry through the actual Defender for Containers have been scanned for vulnerability, and those vulnerability needs to be resolved. If I don't, then I am I'm basically vulnerable, and because I'm vulnerable, I'm not compliant. Therefore, I'm going to click on it, and the very first thing I see is, well, the description of the control. Okay, what that means first, and then how to remediate. So how to remediate, or the remediation steps, will give you the manual remediation. You can easily follow the step-by-step here and then easily remediate each one of those, okay? Then the other thing which is actually important is what resources are affected by such recommendation. You can click, you can expand the affected resource, and you can see the 3 container registries in this case, they have vulnerabilities. In this case, the middle one, the Contoso Gov containers rag, has 3 images. Those 3 images have been scanned, and there are some vulnerability findings on it. Okay, the vulnerability that we're finding is also listed over here. It is listed with a number 372268, and it's also listed with the actual security check, meaning like it is a GNU Bash privilege escalation vulnerability for Debian. So most likely this container image has the Debian kernel, and this is basically a known vulnerability to be fixed. Okay, so the very first thing you do, you're going to actually fix the vulnerability on the image first, repackage the image, then push the image back into the container registry, and then after that, most likely the second round of the what do you call the scanning will then be resolved. So this is pretty much how you actually resolve vulnerability. There is other ways. Sometimes, like let me see if I can say endpoint protection here. Perhaps log analytics agent should be installed on the virtual machines. Okay, so this one is telling you that some of your VMs do not have the log analytics agent, which is required. Well, actually, is recommended to have for collecting logs. They're needed for your security or non-security monitoring. How to remediate? Well, likely there is a quick fix. Okay, so you can actually click and select the actual servers in this case, and by either click fix it in this case, because there is a quick fix, it will generate a policy. It will generate a provision of such agent on those servers. You can also trigger logic apps. Perhaps if you don't have the fix it, which is provided by the Microsoft solution, and then you want to implement a remediation step through an automated process, you can build a logic app, which is basically a serverless workflow that you provided by Azure. And then once you publish that, you can simply trigger the logic app, and that logic app will do the magic for you. Now, the second thing that I want to discuss is regulatory compliance. Under regulatory compliance, as I say, we have a way to benchmark our security against the known standards. ASB v3 is the default, okay, as well as the ISO, the PCI, and the SOC TSP. However, you have an option to add additional ones, such as the NIST 800, the Azure CIS, the CMMC, DoD, FedRamp, so on and so forth. How you do so? The first thing you do is go into manage compliance policies, and under the actual subscription, if it opens up, you go under policy, and under policies, you see there is already one default initiative, which is the one that generates a secure score. However, you can add additional ones by adding more standards. Unfortunately, I add all of them already. Therefore, you don't see any additional ones. However, if any of those were being deleted and wait a few minutes, we can actually re-add it back on. However, you know, the trick is here, add more standard, and you can see the standards are not enabled. You can actually enable as you need it. If a standard is not available, if you wish to actually build your own standard, you can do so. You can create an Azure custom initiative, which is an Azure, a collection of Azure policies, and you can add right here. That custom initiative will generate the actual benchmark, and then once the assessment's done, you will see the results as a green or red, has just the one over here. Okay, I mean for ASB, I'm pretty much red. I can click on FedRamp, and then I also have a problems over here. The concept how to read these results is the same, pretty much the same as a security score. You have a control domain, in this case access control. You expand it, and under the access control, you see subdomains, subcontrols. In this case, let's look at the access enforcement. Under here, you have the actual controls, and then under each controls, you see what resource type this control is applicable to, how many of those resources are failing, in this case 4 out of 13. So you have a little bit of red over here, which is the results of 4 not being compliant. If we click on the actual control, now you have just like the secure score, the notion of a brief description of the control, the effect of the resource, and a way to actually fix it by triggering LG caps in this case. Okay. So the last thing that I want to show you under the posture management is the notions of inventory. As we explained, as I say earlier through the deck, we have this asset inventory here. Now you have a list of all your resources, being a VM, storage account, so on and so forth. You can extend through each one of those slides and see what are your asset. Each asset will provide you a good understanding of the resource type, what subscription belongs to. In this case, if a monitoring agent is installed, if it is protected by Defender for Cloud, and if there are any recommendations there are applicable to it. In this case, there are exactly 26 recommendations applicable to it. You can click on it, and then you can actually see for each resource its health state. It consists most likely all the recommendations that are applicable to it, consist on the alerts are being detected from this resource, and then if there are any installed applications on that client, it will also show as an inventory of applications installed. Now, with this, we're done with the demo, and we go on pretty much on the last section, which is detect threats and protect your workloads. The second capability, the main feature of the Defender for Cloud, is the workload protections. So Defender for Cloud provides this advanced threat protection, which allows you to detect all kinds of threat. Okay, will basically generate alerts across your compute, your database, your cloud service layers, and more. We have plans for almost everything. The detections and all those alerts are fully aligned and mapped with the MITRE ATT&CK framework. As an alert has been generated, you will be able to see that the actual equivalent TTP as it is mapped to the MITRE ATT&CK. Those detections are relying on highly sophisticated and resource-specific alerts based on Microsoft Global Threat Intelligence. As I said earlier, we leverage Microsoft Threat Intel, which is a result of consuming more than 24 trillions of security data across the globe. Okay, we also provide a full vulnerability management, which allows you to identify and remediate such vulnerability before they actually become exploitable. Finally, we have a way to correlate alerts so that you can actually see how an alert generated for a resource A has also been part of a threat or attack that is moved to a resource B. Okay, also those alerts are grouped together into incidents. The way we provide this threat protection is both, as we say, is both vertical and horizontal. The vertical part is what we call the depth protection, and then is top-down protection for the resources. We have one for VMs, for regular Azure or on-prem VMs. We provide a threat protection for Azure SQL, Azure Kubernetes. We provide a protection for containers, SQL Server, Azure Storage. Across the whole stack, which is the breadth protection, we provide protection for your Azure Resource Manager, or also known as ARM, and as well as Azure DNS. So so the protection works both for the cloud and for the on-prem when it comes down to your VMs. So if you have any VMs, they're basically Azure hosted, third-party cloud hosted, on-prem hosted. You can still protect those VMs. All you need to do is basically install also Azure Arc. This is for Azure Gov, obviously. Okay, install Azure Arc, and then the Azure Arc will extend such protection in those workloads, in those VMs. We can also integrate the results of the findings, those protection with your SIEM. If you use Microsoft SIEM Sentinel, you can easily integrate using the actual native connector. If you use a third-party SIEM, anyone, you can basically forward all those alerts, all those findings into such a SIEM using Event Hub, basically. Security alert and incident. As detection or as a threats are detected, the first thing we generate is an alerts and incident. Through those alerts, you can actually have full understanding of what happened through the attack, what it was the threat, okay, and they have a full detail for such what do you call threat. I'm going to show you and very quickly into a demo very soon. We have a full stack coverage with dedicated detection. As I say earlier, we pretty much protect almost everything in Azure, right? We can cover compute service layer, database, and storage. We have a protection plan for servers, for containers, for container registry as well. We have a protection plan for Azure DNS, for resource manager. When it comes down to database and storage, you have a plan to protect your blob storage, your file storage, pretty much your entire storage account. We also provide full protection for your SQL server, being a SQL Server machine or a PAS SQL database. But we also provide open source types of database protection. We have a plan for MySQL, one for MariaDB, as well for PostgreSQL. Here is basically a slide that will show you that if you have VMs, they're hosted outside of the Azure, it can be on-prem on a third-party cloud. You can easily extend such protection to them by simply install the Azure Arc agent. Along with Log Analytics agent, you are then fully protect those resources and see those findings, those alerts within one single pane, which is Defender for Cloud. Response automate. As I say earlier, one of the feature main capability is not only to detect, to benchmark your security, detect the threats, but also to respond to such things. All right, how we respond, automate. Well, we have the quick fix, which is basically automated generated by Microsoft, which are applied as needed when a recommendation is found. Also, you can use a logic apps. Logic apps is the tool I chose because I will provide you to generate an extensive workflow that allows you pretty much to do almost everything you need to do it. Okay, with the workflow, you can remediate, but you can also notify based on alerts a team or a single person. You can also leverage the notification or the logic apps to send the finding to our ServiceNow, to your teams, to your Slack, to your Sentinel. So we have a pretty much logic apps connector for almost every type of a product and service out there. If there isn't, you can always leverage APIs and then easily build a custom connector. Now let's go into a demo. So workload protection, the very first thing you do in order to enable workload protection is to ensure that your subscription has the plans enabled. The plan is enabled by switching from off to on, okay? Once enabled, you don't have to do anything other than just, you don't have to do anything else, okay? Any new resource such as servers will be automatically protected. You don't have to do anything after that. If you protect your database and you only have 1 or 2 database instances right there, doesn't matter. Any new instance database will be automatically protected. Same story for storage, containers, and so on and so forth. So the first thing you do, you enable your protection. Once you enable your protection, then those detection rules, machine learning, AI, and so on and so forth, are going to work for you and generate the alerts. If anything is being suspiciously detected, an alert will be generated. The alerts are obviously listed as high, medium, or low. And as you can see over here, we have under 14 active alerts. And then only those under 14 active alerts have been generated from 2 resources. This is mainly a result of a similar attack that we have script for a demo. Okay, so in this case, we have two servers that have been under attack. Okay, so you can see several things such as suspicious process executed, process memory dump, suspicious behavior by the command CXE. Other things such as a suspicion PowerShell command, or we have things such as, let's see, creation of accounts. Let me see, there are some, oh yeah, UAC bypass, addition of a guest account added to the log administration. So from here, you can just simply click on the alert, and the very first thing you see, besides a recap of general information such as what is the severity, medium, is it still active, or is dismissed? Okay, at the time that when the alert was generated. Okay, first a brief description of the alert, the affected resource. In this case, you have the actual VMs and the MITRE ATT&CK TTP. All right, in this case, it's privilege escalation. You can actually take an action right here or view full details. If you look in the view few details, we have other things such as alert details. Okay, in this case, you're seeing that there are the guest account is being added into local administration group, okay, and it's being executed by a script, okay. The account in this case is MDC demo admin. The files that are ever being used for such thing is CMD and NEXE. The host is the Windows Server 0, and they have two processes that have been evaluated here, those two commands basically. Now, let's go home. The USC bypass was detected. If you have the integration with the MDE, you also have an option to further investigate into the alert by click investigate the alert in the M365 Defender portal. So this is the results of the integration with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is automatically enabled by default unless you uncheck it. If you have a plan 1 or plan 2, you have automatically, the MDE protection. So if you click on this, then it will take you to actual MDE. And then from here, you can further investigate into the alert. Like more informations are obviously, and more detailed information are also provided through the MDE stack through this page. So with this, I'm going to close this demo and then basically close with a summary. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud will secure and protect your resources across your Azure environment, your hybrid environment, using one single pane of view. Will ensure secure and compliance configuration of all your cloud resources and will allow you to detect vulnerability and threats to protect against all kinds of malicious attack. Defender for Cloud will strengthen your cloud security posture today. So enabling Defender for Cloud to assess your security posture. What I want you to do is do so. And also once you do so, go ahead and fix your top 5 security score recommendation. Start a free trial to protect your workloads. And then onboard if you have resources in AWS and GCP or on-prem by using Azure Arc. And with this, I'm basically want to thank you. And then I want to spend the last 5 minutes if there are any unanswered questions.
Thank you, Giulio, for the excellent presentation today. While we wait for any questions to come in, I just want to let everyone know that we have released our 2022 fall schedule of webinars, the first half of them, and you can register for those at aka.ms/securitycommunity. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Let's see, yeah, so no more questions. I think that the Q&A team did a great job answering them all in the chat. So once again, thank you, Giulio, for being our guest today and for an excellent presentation. And thank you to the rest of the team who helped answer questions. And again, I'm going to remind the listeners that the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements is to visit our landing page at aka.ms/securitycommunity. And while there, you'll find easy ways to navigate and find the resources and learning content relevant to our security products and their communities. A good start would be browsing our bite-sized product videos, ninja trainings, recordings of past webinars, GitHub communities, and more. We love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. Please take a minute submitting your feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. Thank you and see you next time. Goodbye.